Also, First United Methodist Church in Madison held a safe surrender event today for unwanted guns. The goal is to turn the guns into garden tools, like the name of the event suggests. Organizers of the Surrender Safely took guns back in exchange for gift cards. From there, they'll be welded into gardening tools like hoes, rakes, and picks. Event organizer and welder Jeff Wild says the buyback gives the firearms a new purpose.
I find it deeply meaningful to take an object that was a firearm, which is a dangerous instrument, and transforming it into a garden tool. That idea of transformation is deeply meaningful for me.
Now, there will be another Guns to Gardens buyback a week from today at Midvale Community Lutheran Church.